Eric, shocked to see you at the show. I'm at Station Theater with the cast of The Realistic Joneses, which I just had the privilege of previewing. And I'm here with the director, Debbie Richardson. Hi, Debbie. How are you?
Good.
How are you feeling?
Great. They did great tonight. So.
I think they did too. And it's a really interesting, unusual, and deep show, which I think is perfect to have here at the station.
Absolutely.
And
Will Eno.
It is. And I think the last show you directed was also Will Eno, wasn't it?
Yes, and the show before that.
Oh, really? What was... Okay, so you did Title and Deed was your last show,
Yes.
Is that right?
And 2 years before that, I did The Open House, which was also Will Eno. That was my first Eno show. I read Realistic Joneses before I read any other of his plays, but The Open House was the one that I decided to propose that year. And I always knew I wanted to do Realistic Joneses. We saw it in Chicago this year, and after we saw it up on stage, I'm like, yeah, we've got to do this.
What was it about the show that drew you?
I just love his work, and when I see it performed, I mean, it just, his writing is just incredible, I think. So that's what really draws me into it.
Yeah. Well, I would love to read the script because I've never read a Will Eno script, but the dialogue was just fantastic. I didn't know who to compare it to. I thought a little bit of like David Foster Wallace in terms of a writer that I know, but I don't know a playwright that is that fast and creative and I guess random in places. My actors here today are Jeremiah Lowry and Lindsay Gates Markle. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're staying up late with us here on See You at the Show to talk about it. Were you either of you familiar with the show before?
I was not.
No, I was going to have a stare answer on 3. 1, 2, 3.
No. Yeah, it was the first time that I read the script, I did not understand it at all. And I read the thing and I thought, I don't get it. I don't understand how this works. And it took me sitting with another person just talking it out, and I went, oh yeah, that's really funny. So it's his writing is definitely unique, and it's very contemporary, it's very modern. I feel like my character talks just like I do. So.
Well, that's interesting because what I was thinking is that you act this as though you wrote it. It felt that natural to me it felt like your voice, and I don't even know you, but you seem extraordinarily comfortable with the style, with your timing, difference between the humor and the serious, although it's not necessarily serious.
There's a lot of like dark sarcasm humor, but then there's really soft moments as well. And I think from a character perspective, when I first took on John, I thought, what am I going to do with this guy? And I think you see a distinct difference from our first rehearsals and read-throughs and how I was playing him, because I didn't know what to do with him. And then I thought, I don't need to do anything with him at all. This is just me. Like, I'm going to bring myself and who I am and let Will Eno's words flow through me in a different circumstance and just bring me to a different set of circumstances. And that is what felt best.
Well, I think that's what I saw, and that's probably why it seemed so natural. And the only other time I've seen you before is in Around the World in 80 Days, which was like couldn't be further from a role or from a show.
Yeah.
And I have to say I enjoyed this quite a bit more. It was definitely a deeper show. The talent level is incredibly high. You've got a great cast here.
Yes.
And it almost seems when I was looking back at some of the shows all of you have done, a very kind of incestuous group with a lot of overlap, not so much with Jeremiah, but definitely with Barbara and Gary and Lindsay and you. There's a lot of shows that have kind of crossed paths with your group.
Well, it's funny that you said that you feel like Jeremiah could have written the show, because when I was getting ready to cast the show, I specifically asked him to audition because that's who I saw in this role. And he brought exactly what I knew he would bring to it. It was pretty brilliant. So
You're kind.
Yeah. Well, so Jeremiah and Lindsay play the young Jones couple, and then the older Jones couple is played by Barbara Evans and Gary Ambler. Their scenes together are pretty spectacular. And I've acted with Barbara once, but I've seen both of them on stage so many times. And this was a very nuanced performance by Gary. What did you see in them that made them so right for this role, these roles?
Well, there's a couple of things here with them. Gary loves Will Eno. So that's number one. And so he was really interested in the play. And I've done everything. I've costumed shows that Gary has directed. I've been directed by Gary. I've been in shows with Gary, but I had never directed him. So I felt really honored that he was interested in being in the show, and I wanted to have the experiences of, working with him on that, in that capacity, and it was great. It was wonderful. He's a great person to work with. He's really professional. Well, all of these four are just so professional, and they just brought exactly what I thought they would bring to it. So.
Have any of you seen Breaking Bad? But there was a lot of Walter White in him. Season 1, Walter White. There's, I think the way that he wears his illness and his depression and relationship with his wife. Also, I think he's got a little bit of the look, which I've been accused of having. But he had it, I thought. And I don't know. I have so many notes, and a lot of it has the quotes that I just loved. And I was writing them in the dark. I have to remember this one. And I'll probably put that in my written review. But Lindsay, what stands out for you as the best part of doing the show?
The language. The language is so strange and absurd and delightful and wonderful. I had the exact same experience as Jeremiah when I read it the first time. I was like, what? This, I don't understand so much of what's happening. Yeah, what just happened? And then, and it's partially because the play is about language and about using it or not using it, losing it, and choosing not to use it for certain reasons. I feel like I did a lot of rhyming there. And there's no character, the character development and the actual clues about why the characters are the way they are just barely snuck in there. They're little whispers of things that you will miss if you're not paying attention, even as an actor. And so it was a really good challenge. It was a really wonderful challenge to figure out who these people were underneath all the artifice. I feel like Pony is about 98% artifice all the time. And there's actually the author's note, says something about, the I can't remember how he describes the emotions, but the stronger emotions like loneliness, fear, sadness should leak out more so than be displayed, full bore. And that's just really fun to play with and hard. And so, yeah.
Why do you think your name is Pony? All the other names in this show are from Jones to Bob. Jennifer, I guess, is exotic compared to the other ones, and then John, and then Pony.
Yeah.
Do you have a theory? Yeah. Because of your limbs or
Pony,
something?
yeah. My dad said my limbs looked too long and weak, which is also a ponyism because Pony's constantly complaining. She's always as soon as things start to get emotional, she diverts into the physical. So she'll be like, oh, I have this bug bite. Oh, I smashed my thumb. Oh, I'm weak. I can't do these things. So she sort of keeps herself down and tells herself, well, I'm too weak. I can't face hard things straight on. And also Pony's just a really weird case. She's just a really strange individual. And she was hard to get to the heart of, I feel like, for a long time for me. And so I don't know. It makes sense that she's not a Jennifer or a John.
Do you think
Pony.
Is she somebody that really wants to break free in any way? It didn't seem like it. It seemed like you're kind of captive.
Yeah.
You moved to a town you didn't even know the reason why you moved here.
Right. Well, I think she's really comfortable in one place on Earth, and that's with John. I think she and John have a sweet relationship, and she's very comfortable in it, and so doesn't want to leave that safe, comfortable space, and so does whatever she can because she's experienced trauma in her past, which is also barely in the script, and it took me so long to realize that she has a traumatic past, her family. And and she doesn't have any other family. So she's just obsessed with John, loves John, and John protects her and sort of keeps that, keeps her safe. And so she does whatever she can to stay in that bubble, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So Debbie, would you describe this as a comedy, or how would you describe it if somebody were to ask what sort of show they are going to have here?
Call it a dark comedy. I think there's quite a bit of humor in this show. There's tragedy, there's humor, there's just kind of every little thing that you'd want to have in a show, every little part.
Yeah, I mean there's a switch in the mood, and I think it's largely driven from John's character between the two acts, because I laughed so hard and so often in the like hysterically. You're going to have to take lots of different pauses when you have 60 people laughing hysterically instead of 5. But then it did seem to change, and it was your mood. I didn't notice any anger in you, and I felt a little bit in the second act. Is there a conscious change in your behavior when you come out after intermission?
I think it's just this John is going through something different, and I think there's his character, his journey definitely takes a change right after intermission, and how he deals with his own issues without giving too much away as to what's going on in the show. He really has to come to face a hard reality that he's been toying with, and it gets more and more real every day. And then it's time. It's time to face this head on, whether you like it or not. You can only dodge things for so long. And they've been doing a great job of dodging and hiding, and it's just time to go after it. And I think that's scary. I think anger is a good word. There's in there.
Just a different edge.
Yeah.
Something we see, because it does seem as though you do use words in analysis of people's, like you take things so literally, and which is fun. I really appreciate the way that he does that. But there's not an edge, so there's a lot of deflection, and then I guess that's what all the characters are going through as we move into Act 2. One of the things when I read what Will Eno thought about it, and he said that it's such a secret to talk about death, and most people talk about the meaning of life rather than the meaning of death. And so that, I think, is one of the things where this does take a darker turn into that. I don't know, does anybody have any thoughts on whether we're talking, like how mortality issues come into play here?
It's a huge part of the play, in my opinion. I mean, I think when people ask me what's this play about, I think it's about relationships. I think it's about how they develop over time between not only married couples and strangers that you're supposed to, what's it like awkwardly getting to know these other people, and what's it like when there are stakes involved in that, when you kind of have to get to know somebody, and then about mortality. And those are the big issues for me, is and how those all play together. I've got my own in my own life. I've got my own issues with that, and sometimes theater is a way for me to deal with that, right, and take something away. And I think this is one of those times, right, where you can take a look at where you sit with an issue, because I think this play really digs into that. Like, what's it really like to look at the person that you love and have to come to terms with the fact that you might be leaving them or they might be leaving you, and really deal with that. It's not something that we sit around and have fun thinking about,
There aren't really stakes involved, though. It's just chips. That's just my effort to be a little bit of John's wordsmith there.
There's no stake.
But that's what, I did feel like there were all these vignettes, and I felt very kind of voyeuristic watching it. I know that's what an audience always is, but it really just felt like you had created a backyard. And who did your set, by the way, Debbie?
Nicole Powers.
Okay, it's fantastic. I mean, I analyzed it right away and tried to. The sliding door as kind of the bridge of the two areas of the set works really well. I never noticed this half when
That was what
we
we
were
were
in
looking
that
for.
half. Yeah, you didn't need. I don't know if there was lighting work that helped that. Then that's great.
There was definitely that, for sure.
And who else was involved in the production? Like, did you let them do their own costuming?
No.
Okay.
Ellen Strouser did the costumes. Brian Hagee did the lights. We had a great set crew. We had a lot of new people in this show. Brand new stage manager, Courtney Tamimi, and lots of stage crew people, and everybody just kind of learned together. So it was kind of fun.
So the name of the show, do you know where Jones came from? Or why he chose that name?
Yes. Well, because we talked about it at the very beginning of rehearsals. And I think it was Courtney who, because Lindsay said, what do you think the title means, The Realistic Joneses? And then Courtney was like, I think it means like, you always want to keep up with the Joneses. This is the real Joneses. This is what it's really like to be a Jones. And so I think that name really was important, because we always think that grass is going to be greener on the other side, or, the Joneses stuff looks so much better than us. We have to, try to strive to be them, and maybe not.
Well, I'm going to add a little piece to that, because I found an interview of what Will Eno said, where he said that, and he said what he also liked about it was the idea of jonesing, like not in the drug sense, but of craving. And he said that he likes the idea of the word Jones as in a craving or a need, the real needs and cravings that we all have and what we expect from life in the world. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of an added element to that. It's a very philosophical kind of a show. And I don't know. I'm really interested in getting to read it sometime and see, because I was sitting with Michaela over there, and she has read the script, and she didn't see all of the characters the way that they came out, and so I think it might be a different experience for people who have tried to read it. Like you said, it was a weird read until you got to do it.
Well, I wonder really if we were to have a transcript of how we talk in real life, and then hand that to someone else to try to recreate or decipher, it would be very strange to see, I think. Because again, when I look at that script and I read through it and I try to create in my mind what those characters look like, I couldn't put it together. I had no idea. There was a major piece of the plot that after reading it the first time, I missed entirely, like completely didn't catch. And it was a second read through that I went, oh my gosh, boy, did I really miss a boat. But I think that's what this kind of new language looked like. That's what contemporary language looks like. It's stuttered and you repeat things. And I don't know, if you put it down on paper, I think that it would be hard to decipher. So,
well, you've just given me a great idea to like put a tape recorder in an environment of couples, and then type it and then have it transcribed and hand a copy to everybody and try to like act out what you'd actually done. That would be a fun party trick.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So registered trademark to me on that idea. Actually, it wouldn't be a trademark. I'm an intellectual property lawyer, so it'd actually be more like, I don't know, trade secret. No, I don't know what it would be, but I got rights to it.
Your transcript would be fun.
One word that I wrote down, and I'd like somebody to take a thought about it, because it's just said the word palliative. Who says it?
Pony does.
Now, there are lots of random things that happen, but that's one that's really just left there. And I don't think a lot of people know what palliative means. Why do you say it?
Because I'm reading off of a brochure.
No way, really?
That I find, yeah.
Okay. But everything else you're saying seems to kind of have either understandable or have a meaning. And I don't know. Some palliative to me, it's a lot of what's going on in the show. It's palliative is when you can't cure something. And so you are trying to make what's uncurable and awful the most tolerable or the most, and is that the takeaway?
Well, I think Pony says it because she sees it and she thinks that's a funny word. What does that sound like? And she doesn't understand what it means, which is #classic pony. That she's sort of dancing around something and she doesn't realize what she's dancing around or what the meaning behind it is.
All right. Well, maybe Will's making a point there to us that it's not an accident. It didn't feel like an accidental word, even though Pony didn't get it. I've got part of me there was a Saturday Night Live skit that had the people on. Yes, it was Farley, right. And you know what I'm going to
Paul
say.
McCartney and be like, remember when you were in the Beatles? You're like, yeah. He'd be like, that was really cool.
Exactly. Because I just want to read lines like, remember when you said the difference between not expecting that versus expecting that not to happen? Remember? That was really good. I like it.
that one a lot. Or saying bye and leaving or not saying bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not saying bye.
Remember when Jeremiah, when you said that you were asked what your biggest fear was, and you said, "What? I have so many; they have to be ranked."
I heard it. It was really good.
Well, it's that kind of show, and I think that's why I really would encourage people to come, because it's really this. It's beautiful writing, and then Debbie, what you've done to bring it to get the most out of this incredible talent, to make it so enjoyable and so accessible, and so. Much making me want to come see it again so I can understand it more.
Because you will understand it more. The more you see it, the more you understand, the more you hear it. But I have to give the credit to these folks, because when you have talent of this caliber, the director really doesn't have to do a whole lot. I mean, they brought it from day one, and I just tweaked some things. So credit goes to them.
Okay. Well, I give them lots of credit, and this is a great thing to have at the station. It's a perfect venue for a kind of a philosophical, introspective, and hilarious show. So good luck with your run. And we start, so tell us really quick, let's get the full plug in. This is at the Station Theater, the Realistic Joneses. We opening tomorrow night, which is the Halloween. Good luck with that. Oh, you're wanting people to wear costumes.
Yeah, if they want to.
Okay. Do you get a cheaper
Dress up
price
as a
if
pony.
you dress up as your favorite character from the show?
Oh, gosh. That's hard.
And then it's a 3-week run?
Yes.
Okay.
We close on the 16th of November.
All right. Well, thanks for sticking around late on See You at the Show, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay.